And a very good evening to everybody here joining us on the Track Stars Racing Series YouTube channel. I'm Spud P666, missing my co-commentator in DJ, who is away this week. Also had a birthday on Friday, so again, happy birthday to our series admin and the championship leader in main series for It's Racing Esports, DJ. I hope you had a great time up in Bathurst. And I hope you enjoyed yourself, your week off, and now you'll be rejuvenated and recharged for the next time round in 2 weeks' time. But here we are for TS2 Touring Cars, round 12. We're getting towards the pointy end of the championships. It's exciting, isn't it, ladies and gentlemen? Only 2 more rounds to go, and the first of the drop rounds will be implemented at the end of this race, the Daytona International Course, where we've seen plenty of awesome racing throughout the years and all forms of racing, real life motorsport racing, and even especially back in the Super Formula Championship as well, where we saw the F2 and the Formula Track Stars have a bit of a run around this track as well. As we are waiting on one of our drivers in Griffo, Tony 62, will be looking to reconnect to the lobby and try and get him back onto the grid. So sitting P8 in the championship, but one man leading the way in the championship only just is Budsy 76. So car 76 for the Steel City Mash Buds Racing leading the way in the championship, only just ahead of Rusty Nuts in position 2. But then the guy that's making the charge through the fields pretty quickly is none other than Slapper's mate 117. So the man on form, just like Budsy 76, is putting on a lot of pressure on the guys in the top 2 to try and pressurize them into mistakes and try to capitalize on getting himself up towards the pointy end of the championship, but even leading the championship. Then we have Captain Muffin sitting in P4, so a bit of a hit and miss for Captain Muffin in season 2022 in the TS2 Touring Cars, the Daytona 500 winner. So coming back to bring back, so the driver that's coming back to reclaim of what is his favourite track around Daytona, where he claimed the famous Daytona 500 victory. And as well for Slapper's mate 117. We cannot forget Slapper's mate 117 won the race, the tri-oval race, last time out in round 3. So Slapper's mate, again, really a hunting ground for those 2 drivers. And we'll wait and see what these guys can do. As we're about to get qualifying underway, Griffo Tony has just joined us now. And we're about to start our 5-minute session, ladies and gentlemen. So stay tuned. 5 minutes of qualifying to come. Who will take pole position? Do let me know in the comments below who you got your Monopoly money on. I don't want to pick favourites. I don't want to pick favouritism. But I'm sure there's going to be a couple of good contenders to take out pole position for race 1 of the Daytona 120. So qualifying is underway right now as we get our drivers onto the track. We have 15 drivers, the top 10 plus the 5 pre-qualifiers. We had the Branchy 05, we had MSR Shadow, we had Robo Sports, Davros Magpie, and then we even had the returning V Papa AT. Find him on the track here. There we go. So the returning V Papa AT, the man who joined us in season 2021 as one of the lead drivers for CP Motorsports in the main series, joined us for the grid to tackle on the likes of the main series drivers in the Touring Cars Championship. And for him, he showed up some great performances, taking a couple of victories. I believe it's 3 victories in the Touring Cars Championship. 2 at Interlagos and 1 at Mount Panorama Bathurst. So V Papa AT got some wind under his names in the main series, but now he has to tackle on the likes of the TS2 drivers here. So he's got some competition around this track. So we'll wait and see what he can do on his return to Track Stars Racing Series, racing in the WTCC Nissan GTR Car 3. Keep an eye on his progress. As we go with the MSR boys, Budsy 76, and he's got his teammates in Shadow and Kaizen right behind him in between. So maybe the MSR boys are going to be working together to try and tow each other on a slipstream around this track, because it can be especially around this back section of the track, it's very important to get a lot of speed through the track and a lot of speed through this course to move yourself up into the front. But we ride on with the championship leader, that is Budsy 76, currently leading the standings in TS2. So sit back, crank up the volume, and enjoy a lap from your championship leader in Track Stars TS2. Slappers made on provisional pole position with a 1:37 flat, and then all the times are coming through. Branchie's come through with a 38 flat, so he's well 1 second clear from the rest of the pack here. But what can Budsy 76 do with the tow from his teammate in Kaizen? Only P4 with his teammate Kaizen in P3. So a very awesome lap there by Slappers mate 117, a 1:37 flat, 0.002. Nearly into the 36s, just like we saw in TS3, ladies and gentlemen. The lap times are very similar between the TS2 and the TS3 cars, and Slappers mate is showing the pace so far on his opening lap. So he only's got one more lap in him. He's setting himself about a 1, looks like he's on a trajectory for another 37, but can it be an improvement? Could it be a 0.001, or could it be a 37 flat? We're not too sure. His lost time is lost 0.15 in that section, so we'll wait and see what he can do. The Branchie 63 making his return in Track Stars TS2, currently sitting P2, and then Kai's and TY and Budsy 76 working with each other to try and get as much slipstream as they can to move up the order as quickly as possible. Looks like Budsy is improving his lap time there very nicely, but we'll keep an eye on what's going on behind. So the first of the drivers to come through, Captain Muffin, currently sitting P5. Can he improve his lap time? Can he get himself into the 37s? Oh, in a high 36, 37.7. So there we go, because he's sitting P3. Aussie Hypnotic come through to P2, a 37.5 there. So the two drivers working together to try and work with a bit of a slipstream. What about Kaizen coming through to the start-finish line right now? Kaizen and Budsy 76. Can they improve their lap times? Budsy goes fourth. Kaizen doesn't improve. Budsy into P4, so 37.8. Captain Muffin in third. Branchie in P5. Kaizen TY in sixth place. V Papa Ray T on his return to Track Stars, 1:38.1. Robbo Sport on his final lap, so the last driver to come across the start-finish line. Currently P8, but with any improvements down the side of the car 20 off the Robbo Sport Racing, no improvements there. And then we have Rugworth in 9th and Isa Devlin in 10th. Shadow GT in 11th. Rusty Nuts second in the championship. So this is a talking point, ladies and gentlemen. Rusty Nuts Coming into this round, P2 in the championship is 12th place, with his teammate Stavros Magpie in 13th, Griffo Tony in 14th, and then last week's Split 2 winner, Mad Dog 007 in 15th and last place. But provisional pole position to Slappers Mate 117, and he's 3 positions clear of Budsy 76, the championship leaders, and he knows he'll find out that he'll hear from his team boss, from the pit crew, that he will hear that Rusty Nuts is in P12. So that's just going to be a huge confidence for Slappers Mate 117 going onto this track. As qualifying concludes, Slappers on pole position, Aussie Hypnotic P2, Captain Muffin P3, and Budsy and Branchy P4 and 5. Let's give these guys a bit of a firm reminder on the race start. As we saw with its racing in TS3, it can get a little bit hairy, especially when you're going to try and get as much traction on the track as possible and without losing any traction on the start line. So I'll let these guys know. Good luck. Starting soon. Can Slappers Mate hold on to P1 after taking a very nice pole position lap there? 0.5 on his teammate in Aussie Hypnotic as we get the race underway. Race 1 of the Daytona 120, 60 kilometers for our boys. Only 1 lap extra compared to TS3. But who will come out on top? As we get ready for the race start, the 2 teammates in Slappers Mate 117 and Aussie Hypnotic sharing the front row with Captain Muffin and Budsy 76. So the Brits are pretty close to each other as we wait for those lights to go out. It lights out, green flag racing, and Captain Muffin's got a brilliant start from P3 all the way up into the lead of this Grand Prix. Budsy 76 is flying through into P3. Can he hold on to that position? Can he make the move on Slappers Mate 117? Looks like he's going to make the move. He does, and Kaisen's about to follow him through. Can Kaisen come through? And Rugworth has come out of nowhere, and Rugworth is about to help his teammates and be inside the top 4, ahead of Slappers Mate 117. So the 2 boys in Slappers Mate and Aussie Hypnotic, the front row, is now down into 5th and 6th place. As we try to get back into the wide angle shot, Captain Muffin leading the way ahead of Budsy 76. So this is exactly what Budsy wanted, to be ahead of Slappers Mate 117. Kaisen in 3rd place, and Rugworth after a brilliant start in P4. Slappers and V Papa and Aussie Hypnotic, the 3 teammates from WTCC, all fighting it out for position 5. But Slappers just holds on to V Papa. Aussie Hypnotic in 7, and Rusty Nuts coming through the field into P8, trying to close that gap between him and Slappers Mate 117 to not getting any advantages. So the Robo Sport cars, Rusty, Robbo and Stavros, 8th, 9th and 10th, with Shadow in 11th place, Griffo 12th, Isa Devlin in 13th, Mad Dog moving up a position in 14th, and Branchy after a terrible start in 15th and last place. So executing the bus stop very nicely there was Captain Muffin 88, currently holding the lead. Budsy 76 in 2nd, Kaisen in 3rd, Rugworth got a good gap between himself and Slappers Mate as well as Kaisen. So Rugworth is holding onto his car very nicely after a solid start. Slappers Mate hit with a half-second penalty there, loses that position to V Papa AT, and Slappers from pole position down to 6th place. So this is a horrible start for the man in 3rd place in the championship, and only Rusty Nuts is about 2 positions behind the man in car 117. So you can see the swarm of Robo Sport racing cars challenging the WTCC cars. And they have to get past Aussie Hypnotic to have any chance to try and reduce those margins between Slappers and Rusty. But so far they're not able to make any moves on Budsy 76, who's holding on to P2 very nicely. Captain Muffin still leads the way. Kaisen doing a very nice job into P3, and Rugworth just coming under a bit of pressure from Papa AT in 5th place. A beautiful start for Rugworth after starting in P9. Bit of an inconsistency throughout the year in Rugworth's racing, but when he does show some good performances, he's on the money and he can get himself into the top 5 pretty easy. But now he's coming under all sorts of pressure from the man in car 3. These two are mates as well from WTCC as well, with Rugworth joining MSR in 2021. The V Papa AT jumping ships to CP Motorsports. Oh, I think Rugworth just got over the curbing there, so that might be a half-second penalty next to his name. Yes, there it is, and V Papa as well. So Rugworth will be the ones to serve the penalty, and then Papa will be right behind them. But going on board between the two guys, they've got half-second penalties. Who's it going to benefit? Looks like it just benefits Rugworth slightly after being ahead. And Slapper's mate is coming right behind in P6. Rusty Nuts is up into P7 now, so Rusty is just behind Slapper's mate 117. And the two Robo Sport cars behind in 9th and 10th place will trying to put pressure on Aussie Hypnotic for position 8. So Rusty and Slappers duking it out for 6th place. Could bring the gaps closer, and Papa gets another half-second penalty there. So Papa, with all the penalties next to his name, is not a good start for V Papa. Starting in P5, keeping that car nice and steady for WTCC, being the first driver from WTCC in position 5. Slapper's mate coming all sorts of under pressure from Rusty Nut 75. Rusty's going to look to have a good shot of making a move on Slapper's mate 117. He's done that, so just before they get up to the oval section, it looks like Slapper's mate got himself a little bit too wide on the curbing there on the exit of the infield and onto the tri-oval. Rusty in P6, Slappers drops down to P7 after starting a pole position, so this is incredible. So just like we saw in TS3, the man that takes the driver that takes pole position doesn't really favour you as much because you are a little bit compromised, I would say. Oh, as Rusty gets a little bit hairy on the exit there of the bus stop. But there we go, we got Papa's got a full second behind on his name now, and Rugworth hasn't got anything. So Papa with the penalties next to his name is going to be losing 1 second to the car in front of him. But will he lose time to Rusty Nuts in 6th place? We'll find out very shortly. Let's see what the gap drops down to. Going into turns 1 and 2. Less than a second between Rusty and V Papa AT, but Rusty's in a WTCC sandwich. So Rusty has to keep his calm, keep his nerves, and try and keep Slapper's mate at bay because he knows he's got some help with, I believe that is Robo Sport. Yes, he's got a bit of help with Robo Sport, putting a bit of pressure. And then Shadow GT in 10th place. Stavros Magpie looks like he made a mistake somewhere on the last lap. Maybe a half-second penalty next to his name, not too sure. But the battle packs are pretty close between the top 5. I would say between what looks to be Rusty Nuts down to, I would believe, Stavros. It's actually very close. So Stavros to Rusty Nuts is only separated by just under 3 seconds, or just over 3 seconds, about 3.2 seconds. Separates Rusty down to Stavros in 12th place. That's pretty close, ladies and gentlemen. But back up to the front now as we see Branchy starting to make some moves, trying to get out of the bottom, out of last place. We move back up to the front. Captain Muffin still leads. He's not able to extend his margin as much. Budsy 76 is really closing in on Captain Muffin, where we see the Honda struggle with the weight advantage, with the Honda having a really heavy car under balance of performance specs, GT7, mind you, balance of performance specs. Really struggling to keep that car going through the high speed sections as fast as he can. And the gap has come down to 0.7 of a second as we go on board with the man leading the championship against the man in 4th place in the championship, but leading this race in race 1. So you can see there's a lot of gains that the Honda driver is able to pull on compared to Budsy 76, the Lexus driver. Really trying to rev the car out and try and get as much traction as you can. But Captain Muffin's got his car pretty nice and stable around the track. Doesn't look like he's losing any time at all. This is the only section of the track where he will lose a lot of time for Budsy 76. So it's all up to Budsy to try and just keep his composure through the bus stop. That's about being taking your time, finding your braking markers. Don't worry about what the car ahead of you is doing. Just find your own braking marker. And you'll close up to the car in first. Executed that very nicely there, but Captain Muffin went flying through the bus stop. That was incredible. I don't know if you guys saw that, ladies and gentlemen. That speed, that Captain Muffin going through the bus stop. Wow. That was incredible. He put at least almost 4/10 on Budsy 76 there, as we see him move from V Papa AT on Rugworth. So Papa up into 4th, Rugworth drops down to 5th place. So it looks like Rugworth hasn't been able to pull away from Papa after getting that 1 second penalty earlier on in only a couple of laps time. V Papa set a 36.9 to set the fastest lap of the race. It's sitting in P4. It's cleared Rugworth. It only takes a couple of corners to try and settle the grid down, and it looks like he has. So Papa makes the move on Rugworth into 4th place, and Rugworth will just be trying his best to stay as close as he can, or not losing too much traction on his Lexus car 74. Losing a bit of traction on his car, but all is well. He's keeping his head down. He's 4 seconds ahead of Rusty Nuts, who's still ahead of Slapper's mate 117. Aussie Hypnotic right behind in P8, and then Robbo Sport in 9th. Shadow GT in 10th place, holding himself inside the top 10. Stavros Magpie in 11th. Isa Devlin will be making his return into the main series Touring Cars Championship later on this evening in 12th place. And then the Branchy 63, Mad Dog and Griffo. Not a great run for Griffo over these last couple of rounds. So we've been seeing him struggle a fair bit in his Nissan GTR. So something about his car is not working compared to the likes of Slapper's mate and Aussie Hypnotic. So a lot of work to do for Car 62 after between races, and see what he can do to get himself further up the grid in race 2. But Captain Muffin is extending the gap now. It's 1.5 seconds. That will come down as soon as the Honda starts losing pace down the straight. But Kaizen holding on to P3, 4 seconds between Papa and Kaizen. So Papa's only got about 4 laps to go to try and get himself onto the podium on his return to Track Stars Racing Series. P4, V Papa AT, Rugworth still holding on to P5 very nicely there. Rusty and Robbo Sport has actually made the moves, and we see Slapper's mate all the way down to 10th place. So something has happened. Maybe a half-second penalty for Slapper's 117. But Slappers is just hanging on to the top 10 with pressure coming from Stavros, Magpie, Devlin, and even the Branchy. As I see a car, or heard a car losing a bit of traction there. That was Aussie Hypnotic losing traction in his Nissan GTR. So these WTCC cars, except for V Papa AT, these WTCC cars are struggling around this track after occupying the front row in qualifying. So maybe the setup that these guys are running for qualifying works, but it doesn't work for the long run in the race. So there's something needs to be done for the WTCC boys. We know V Papa AT has got this experience in main series from last year, but now making a return to the TS2 field and in Track Stars, holding on to P4, 3.7 behind, 3.6 now behind Kaizen. Just incredible scenes here. Slapper's mate behind his teammate in Aussie Hypnotic, coming all sorts of pressure from Stavros and Devlin. Branch is going to be looking to make up some positions as well. So Aussie Hypnotic just holding on. He's just under a second between himself and Shadow GT. Robbo Sport having a very solid run for the leader of Robbo Sport Racing. This is probably one of his best performances I've seen in TS2, and Robbo Sport keeping the car very clean inside the top 7. So it's good to see himself behind his teammate in Rusty Nuts. And Rusty Nuts is well clear of Slapper's mate 117, and will be getting points back on Slapper's mate 117 in the championship. But coming on to lap 8 of 10. Some movements between some of the drivers here. The gaps are still staying the same between the top 3. Looks like Captain Muffin's getting some really good exits where he needs them, because he knows this car struggles on a straight line. So I wonder, Captain Muffin's really working very hard to keep this car as straight as possible. We're trying to get as much traction down as possible to try and pull away from that Lexus, because he knows that car is very slippery in a straight line. And I myself know, as the as the Lexus driver for my own team, Mash Butts Racing. It is a very fast car in a straight line, so these guys will be working very hard to try and close up to Captain Muffin. Again, he's just pulling time away. He's pulled almost 5 tenths. He's about to go 5 tenths after the bus stop there. There you go. 5 tenths, and that's all in the bus stop. That's all in a very fast bus stop there, ladies and gentlemen. Captain Muffin just wringing the neck out of his Honda NSX. This is incredible scenes. This is a incredible performance by Captain Muffin 88, sitting fourth in the championship. Whether he's in contention for the championship come round 14, we'll wait and see. But Captain Muffin putting on a very fine performance this evening at Daytona. Budsy and Kaizen, two MSR cars, Steel City MSR cars in second and third. V Papa losing a bit of time to Kaizen after looks like he picked himself a penalty on that last lap. Maybe not. 138.9 versus a 137.6. It looks like he's made a mistake somewhere. Still got a good gap over Ruckworth, and Ruckworth it's the same as well. He's got a good gap over Rusty Nuts, and Rusty coming all sorts of under pressure from his teammate in Robbo Sport, who's also coming under pressure from Shadow GT 007. So the battle for sixth place will rage on, and the things we'll be talking about. And Slapper's Mate is outside of the top 10. So Slapper's Mate 117 after starting on pole position. Devlin gets a bit of a hit by Branch at 63. Slapper's Mate starting on pole position is down into 11th and last place. This is the worst start for any driver on pole position that you could ever have in TS2 touring cars, and he's going to come under threat from Isa Benjo. As I see contact made between a couple of drivers there, that is Branchy. Branchy goes for a bit of a half spin there after trying to make a move on Devlin there, and was not able to make that move stick. And Devlin now putting pressure on Slapper's Mate 117 going around the outside. Unfortunately just clipped the rear wing of the WTCC car. But what has happened to Slapper's Mate 117? What has happened? This is crazy scenes. And now Slapper's Mate is down into 12th place. What is going on for the driver in car 117? What is going on? He started on pole position. He's now down into 12th place, far away from his championship rivals in Budsy 76 and Rusty Nuts. He's now down into 12th place. He's going to come under pressure from one of his teammates in Mad Dog 007, the only Lexus driver from WTCC, in 13th place. Griffo in 15th place is not far behind as well. But coming on to the final lap, we've got Captain Muffin leading the way. Budsy 76 hasn't been able to put too much pressure on the man in car 98, but he's hanging on there. It's all he needs to do. It's all that Budsy 76 needs to do. He needs to hold on to his placing. He needs to hold on. He needs the points over his fellow competitors in Rusty Nuts and Slapper's Mate 117. And even if he stays close to Captain Muffin, he won't lose too many points to Captain Muffin, but he knows race 2 is very important to try and get the advantage over Captain Muffin. As Muffin comes around the bus stop for the final time, what can you say about him? He's one of the best in TS2 touring cars in the field of a star-studded lineup in Track Stars TS2 touring cars. At the end of race 1 for round 12 of TS2 Touring Cars Championship, the victory will yet again belong to Captain Muffin 88, taking the victory. And line honours here for race 1 at Daytona. Budsy 76 holds on to P2. Kaizen a solid drive to be in P3. And V Papa 18 for another fastest lap at 1 minute 36.7 in 4th place. So keep an eye on him for race 2 and qualifying. Rugworth a solid P5 for the man in MSR Field Racing. Rusty Nuts in P6. Behind is Robbo Sport and Shadow GT. Aussie Hypnotic from 2nd to 9th place, and Stavros Magpie in 10th place. Isa Devlin and Slapper's Mate 117. You have to feel for this man. Slapper's Mate 117 starting on pole position is in 12th and last place. That is crazy to think. Mad Dog rounds up in 13th place. Branchy after a bit of a spin in 14th place, and then Griffo rounding up your 15 drivers in 15th and last place. Wow, there's a lot of storylines to uncover, ladies and gentlemen, and one being Slapper's Mate 117 starting on pole position, finishes in P12. How is that possible? How? You let me know in the comments in the chat. How has he managed to be able to do that? I've never seen anything like that in this year's Touring Cars Championship, TS2 Touring Cars Championship. I've never seen anyone go from pole position to P12. Crazy scenes. Probably not all on his own there. He must have made a few mistakes there, as this track is very tricky to negotiate. It's not an easy track to learn, but I do feel like his car from qualifying to the race definitely changed. And he needs to rectify that before the end, before the start of a race 2 and qualifying 2. But the man from CP Motorsports, the Elite Brake and Mechanical sponsored Car 98, taking the victory. No challenge at all from Budsy 76. He put on a lot of pressure there in the early stages, but I think Captain Muffin just really managed to outperform what the Honda is capable of, and just guided that through to victory. Very nice victory. Kaizen yet again putting on a nice solid performance in his debut season. Only a few rounds young, putting himself into P3, and then V Papa AT making a return in TS2 and Track Stars. A nice performance there to be P4, and Rugworth, a nice solid performance yet again for the man in car 74 in P5. Rusty Nuts losing points, losing ground to both Captain Muffin and Budsy 76, but gains on Slapper's mate 117. So we'll wait and see what Rusty can do in a race 2. Robbo Sport, one of his fine performances in the TS2 Touring Cars Championship, P7 behind his teammate, only 0.5 behind Rusty Nuts. So that's a very good accomplishment by the leader, by the team boss of Robbo Sport Racing. And then Shadow GT yet again inside the top 8, putting himself in a very good position of solid runs from the man from MSR. But one driver you can't fault is Captain Muffin. Victory next to his name, getting the perfect jump at the start, took the lead on lap 1, never looked back, and a solid performance there by Captain Muffin. As we take a quick short break, ladies and gentlemen, we will join you guys for race 2 very shortly. We'll give these guys about 3 minutes to recuperate, recover, grab a drink, go to the bathroom, do what they got to do, and then we'll see these guys back in action for qualifying 2 in about 3 minutes' time. So stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen. We will be back with you very shortly. And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. That's for that little short break away from the coverage of the Track Stars TS2 Touring Cars Championship for the Daytona 120. Got a couple of drivers jumping in and out of, just trying to reset their internet, trying to make sure they get a bit of instability with some of the lobby settings. So the lobby is a little bit, from a couple of notes, we have seeing that bit of lag still hanging around as always, as we always see in GT7. Not a complete game, unfortunately, so we're not able to have steady connections, unlike what we saw in our previous platform in GT Sport. But in a way, I guess we have to make do what we make do with. And with our drivers gearing up, ready to go again. The WTCC boys had a fresh reset, have a fresh car now after what was a horrible performance there from WTCC, except for their driver in VPUPA AT. As we get qualifying underway, we'll make sure everybody is in the lobby. And we shall get our drivers in for qualifying too. So let me know in the comments below who you've got your Monopoly money on for pole position. I think the man that's got a good eye on pole position will be VPUPA AT. He set himself a 1 minute 36.7 on that last lap of race one, and was closing, and he's a very fast driver, VPUPA AT. So I'm going to be keeping an eye on him as we get to qualifying. As we start our session, 5 minutes for our drivers to try and get another chance of trying to get provisional pole, to try and get pole position at this track. First race going towards Slappers Mate 117. But then unfortunately, the race ended pretty quickly for the man in car 117. But coming through, he'll want to try and make sure he improves. He'll want to make sure he gets that car towards the front again, but trying to maintain that position at the front. The drivers are about to leave the pit lane right now. The first one, I believe, looks to be Rusty Nuts. So the driver in P6. Very nice drive there from Rusty Nuts. A much better drive for Rusty Nuts. 75 in position 6 in race 1. Hopefully we might be able to see him move up towards the front of the grid at the end of qualifying. Not a very strong driver in qualifying, but when it comes to the race, he knows his way around. He knows his way around the field. He's looking to gain more spots to try and close up on Budsy 76 and extend that gap between himself and Slappers Mate 117. So let's ride on board with the man that did set the fastest lap in race 1, VPUPA AT, the man making his return to Track Stars Racing Series in 5th place. We'll keep an eye on what he can do for his qualifying. And then what can Captain Muffin do 88? If we saw some great performances in that Honda NSX, Captain Muffin really outperforming that Honda, the only Honda in the TS2 field. Actually, I noted that as well. Captain Muffin is the only Honda in TS2 in this race, and he managed to beat both Lexus and a full grid of Lexus and Nissans. It's an incredible performance there by Captain Muffin. We'll wait and see what he can do. So we have Budsy and Declan trying to go side by side to try and get bragging rights to go. Who goes into turn 1 first? Looks like it's going to be Budsy 76 going into turn 1. Well, I'm going to find VPUPA AT down the back here as we go on board with the man in car 3, setting himself some really good lap times in race 1. Hopefully he might be able to produce that in race 2. So sit back and enjoy the lap of what could potentially be a hot lap by VPUPA AT. laps. Lap 6 of 10. V Papa AT has taken the lead away from Captain Muffin on the previous lap there. I do apologise, ladies and gentlemen. It's a bit of an interesting thing going around with technical difficulties on my end of my microphone. Apparently, I was actually muted this whole time. I don't know how much I was muted for, but yeah, unfortunately, I managed to mute myself and was not able to unmute myself. Oh well, things happen. But V Papa AT setting some good lap times again, another 36.7. So just like he did in race 1, he's putting on the pace in race 2. Captain Muffin in second, Budsy just under a second behind Captain Muffin. But you'll watch that Honda NSX go flying through the bus stop unless Captain Muffin makes a huge mistake going in there. And then we have Kaizen and Rugworth in 4th and 5th place. Stavros Magpie, a nice performance from him. A good solid performance for Stavros after having a shocker in race 1 in 6th place. Isa Devlin in 7th. The Branchy 63 in 8th. Aussie Hypnotic and Slapper's Mate 117 all struggling for pace in their Nissan GTRs. And Slapper's Mate has actually just conceded position to Rusty Nuts. So something is going on in the WTCC camp. And his car is not liking the track conditions whatsoever. Mad Dog in 12th. Shadow in 13th place, Griffo in 14th, and then Robbo at the start of the Grand Prix looked to be making his way down the pit lane, which was an interesting one. So Robbo was either pushed into the pit lane or whether he just got himself a terrible start and he dropped down and he accidentally got too much wheel spin that actually escorted him to the pit lane. Not too sure as he just picks up a half-second penalty there. But V Papa still eking that gap out, is not able to increase his lead over Captain Muffin. Captain Muffin's still hanging on. He's not giving up, is Captain Muffin. And neither is Budsy76. He wants to try and get some positions over Captain Muffin in this Grand Prix. Running order: V Papa AT, Captain Muffin 88, Budsy 76, your top 3, Kaizen and Ruckworth 4th and 5th, Stavros Magpie in 6th place, now putting the pressure on Ruckworth. So Stavros, a much better performance for the man from Robbo Sport Racing, piling all sorts of pressure in Ruckworth after putting a nice performance on himself in race 1. But Stavros looking for redemption for race 2. Very nice solid run there through the bus stop, and he'll be looking to use that slipstream to his advantage to get the lead, to get the pass done inside the top 5. Isa Devlin having a nice run in P7. Then the Branchy 63 in 8th, Rusty Nuts in 9th, Mad Dog in 10th, and then Slappers and Aussie Hypnotic there. So something is going on with the guys in WTCC. So something's not right. Something is going on with these guys. Something is not working with their cars. Shadow GT in 13th there. Well, I think he got a bit of a mess. Got a bit of involved in that mess up in race at the opening race, at the opening portion of the race, and then Griffo and Robbo Sport 14th and 15th. But oh, here's a development, ladies and gentlemen. V Papa AT's got himself a half-second penalty. So V Papa, half-second next to his name, and he's only 0.6 ahead, 0.7 ahead of Captain Muffin. So I don't think that's going to equate to holding onto this lead coming through the bus stop unless Captain Muffin has a bad run. But we know Captain Muffin to have a very strong line through the bus stop there. And as we see there, he's just held on there in first place. So the gaps are staying the same there, but here he comes. We're going to have to wait and see what the damage is for V Papa AT after serving this half-second penalty there. Captain Muffin is closing. He's closing. Will he get the lead? It looks like he will. Yes, he does. So Captain Muffin retakes the lead of the TS2, race 2 at Daytona. Captain Muffin for CP Motorsports taking the lead off V Papa after getting himself a half-second penalty. Budsy 76 has closed up as well, thanks to that serving penalty from V Papa. But Papa's not giving up. He wants to get that position. He wants to get that lead back. he's putting a lot of pressure on the man from CP Motorsports in Captain Muffin. So we've got CP versus WTCC versus MSR. This is where the battle pack is, ladies and gentlemen. We'll look down through the field as we get towards the end of the Grand Prix. But we have Captain Muffin, 0.6 ahead of V-Papa AT. So V-Papa needs a really good exit coming into the tri-oval. Oh, runs the car very wide there. He's lost a lot of time. Losing so much time to Captain Muffin. He's 1.2 now. So Papa struggling to get his car towards the rear wing of Captain Muffin's. Papa AT just able to close that a little bit, so Captain Muffin didn't get the best run through there. So not the best run that we've seen Captain Muffin go through the bus stop, but it is the final lap, ladies and gentlemen, for race 2. To apologise for not broadcasting you the majority of this race. I was trying to do a hot lap. I did the hot lap for Papa AT. It must have just stayed muted and we just couldn't get that connection through with the microphone. So I do apologise, but I hope the action, the camera work and the action has been livening you guys up of what has been an exciting race here for race 2. Captain Muffin still leads V-Papa AT after taking the lead after Papa served himself a half-second penalty, and the gap is starting to eke out a little bit more. So I don't know how much pressure, I don't know how much Papa can resist to try and close the gap to Captain Muffin 88. So it looks like we could be having a clean sweep from the CP Motorsports driver. A full 300 points could be going towards the man in car 98 to try and form any resurgence, to try and take back, to try and get himself close to the championship leader at the end, coming to round 14. But it'll be Captain Muffin leading the way. Budsy 76 will take out P2. And then I believe it's going to be either Papa or Kaizen taking out overall P3, but they'll be tied on points at the end of this race. So coming through the bus stop for the final time, Captain Muffin executes that very nicely. Papa also executes that very nicely too. But it's not going to be enough. It's nowhere near enough to slipstream range. And the man from CP Motorsports yet again has done the job for car 98 and CP Motorsports, sponsored by Elite Breaker Mechanicals. It is Captain Muffin 88 taking the checkered flag and the clean sweep of Track Stars TS2 here at Daytona. Congratulations from the man from CP Motorsports, V-Papa AT, on a solid return from the man in WTCC on loan from CP Motorsports. Budsy 76 can hold himself very high, getting himself on the podium 2 races in a row, a second and a third. He'll take that and extend his championship lead. Kaizen TY in 4th place. Very nice racing from the man in car 888. And then Stavros Magpie, a much better race from Stavros Magpie in P5. And then Rugworth holding on very nicely into P6. So a very nice round there for Rugworth for the MSR VL Racing. And then Isa Devlin, I believe that's his best performance in TS2 this year. So Devlin having a very nice run in this time around in Daytona and for TS2. Then we have the Branchy 63 inside the top 8, so just where we want to see Branchy inside the top 8 having a good run. And then Rusty Nuts in P9, 6 positions behind Budsy 76, but confident, but good enough for him to be 2 positions ahead of Slapper's mate 117 at least. So Mad Dog occupies the top 10, puts himself inside the top 10, so that's a very nice race. And Mad Dog, Slapper's mate in 11th place, Shadow GT in 12th, Griffo and Aussie Hypnotic 13 in the 14th, and then Robbo Sport after what was a mysterious race start for him in 15th and last place. So a lot of talking points will be coming out of this race. We don't know where to start, ladies and gentlemen. We do not know where to start at all. Captain Muffin taking the clean sweep. V-Papa making his return to Track Stars Racing Series. But I think the biggest talking point is Slapper's mate and WTCC. What has happened to this driver who took out pole position in race 1, dropped down to P12, Started inside the top 5 of this race and is now outside the top 10 again. So that's twice in a row for Slapper's Mate 117. Crazy scenes here in Track Stars TS2. So it's been an eventful race for us here at Track Stars TS2. We will be seeing these guys in 2 weeks' time at Fuji. So I know a certain driver from the TS2 and main series field will be definitely be joining us for Fuji in 2 weeks' time as these guys navigate around the track, park their cars up, and just put them back in the transporter, just to give these guys 2 weeks break away from the track and racing. But just a reminder to everyone: the first of the drop rounds will be taken away from drivers. So one race out of the 12 rounds, or one round from the 12 rounds, one of their worst rounds will be subtracted from the overall total that they have coming into at the end of round 12. So we'll wait and see what the results are going to be like. But we know one result, ladies and gentlemen: Captain Muffin taking the clean sweep in Track Stars TS2. Awesome racing by Captain Muffin, taking back the lead from V Papa AT after getting himself a half-second penalty there. So that race was Papa's race to lose, and unfortunately he lost it with a 0.5-second penalty. And very unfortunate for V Papa not take victory on his return to Track Stars. But I think we're going to bring in our driver of the day segment, and I think there's only one man that can take out driver of the day, and I have a feeling that's definitely going to be Captain Muffin 88, starting P3 in both races and ending up in P1 at the end of turn 1 twice in a row. This is incredible, unbelievable scenes. You cannot script that at all. Captain Muffin getting himself the best start and coming out in the lead twice in the 2 races and not looking back. He had a bit of a scare with V Papa AT on lap 5, I do apologise. But unfortunately, he could not hold on, and Captain Muffin came flying through, taking the clean sweep. So the driver of the day goes to Captain Muffin. Big congratulations to Muffin and the boys back in CP Motorsports. We'll see the CP boys back in the main series very shortly, in less than an hour's time, joining us with Venti SS Gaming being your lead commentator. And we'll be seeing a couple of returns here of the one and only It's Racing, your 4 times Touring Cars champion, making his return back into the main event in Track Stars Racing Series for the Touring Cars Championship. But on behalf of us and TS2, we cannot wait to see you guys in 2 weeks' time at Fuji. But for now, we will see you guys and enjoy yourselves for the main series coming up in less than an hour's time.